Hi folks, my name is Danny. Welcome to Danny's Corner. This is another video on a series that I have titled What is Woke? And in these videos I have tried to show you with examples that people with disabilities, and myself included because I am blind and have other disabilities which I have discussed, are oppressed. And just because you may not see us, just because we're not part of a conversation, doesn't mean that these things are not happening. It's interesting how a lot of the things that are big right now, such as homelessness, drug addiction, what else? A disparity between rich people, or the haves and have-nots, has gotten media attention. But those of us who have been aware of these social problems know that this should have been addressed a long time ago. Homelessness has always been a problem. Drug addiction has been a problem for a very, very, very long time. Poverty has always been a problem. And I can go on, and so goes for people with disabilities facing ableism and other prejudice attitudes. And racism has been a problem. And gender inequality has always been a problem. Why are we acting as if all of a sudden this is something new? Just because you can't find this being talked in shows like The View or in other political news shows, or with your family, or just because you don't hear people talking about this type of issue in terms of, the societal barriers and our attitudes that we face as people with disabilities, that doesn't mean they don't happen. So let me give you another example of the oppression that people like me have faced. And I'm not speaking about myself, I'm speaking about other people who have had it worse than I have. But you're not going to hear these stories unless you dig deep. And for some, if not a lot of us, it's really hard to dig deep into something because we're not searchers. We don't want to search for the truth. We want things instantly. We want sound bites. We want to take things out of context. We don't have time to dig under thousands and thousands of documents or hearing hours of audio and or video. So it's easy to manipulate people because they don't want to be informed. Think about it for a bit. You would rather sit 3, 4, 5 hours to consume fast food, entertainment, go to any game. I'm not saying that those things are bad. I'm just saying that we all do them. We spend hours upon hours in the course of our lifetime doing all of these things. But we don't take a break to be thoughtful, to be introspective, to meditate, to reflect, and to search for the truth, to talk to other people who have faced injustice, who have faced loss. Isn't that interesting? Is it because we don't care? Is it because we only care about ourselves and that's it? So, back in the 1980s, I believe, or was it 70s? I forget. Geraldo Rivera, which, again, you may have your opinion of what he is or his outlook on life or politics or whatnot. I'm not questioning any of that. I'm just speaking about this specific thing that he did. Back in the 1970s, late 70s or 80s, he went with a camera. I don't know if he went alone or he went in with a crew. But one of the institutions that he visited was Willowbrook in New York. This was an asylum for people with disabilities. It was called something worse. But suffice it to say that all manner of people with disabilities were in there, regardless of if they could understand what was going on or not. They were all treated the same. According to the expose or the report, it's here on YouTube, and I'm going to leave the link too. There was a lot of things that were horribly wrong, injustices that were made. Some of the things are so awful that I don't dare to say them in this video. Just watch for yourselves when you get a chance to see the documentary or report. And he brought that to the light. And things changed. People were rehabilitated, if you will, were finally given a chance to be in their own communities, were set up with things that could help them to be citizens. It's interesting how with groups that we don't like, with groups that we consider inferior, we have marginalized them. And for whatever reason, this is acceptable to us. It's sickening. And there should be no excuse for that. So, back in 2012, I want to say, I have to check this, but again, all the information that I'm giving you will be either on in the comment section or the description. But up to 2012, maybe a little bit later, there was a school that was still using this device that was approved by the FDA, and they were using it at a school for people with disabilities. And the objective was that every time that this person with a behavioral disability was not doing what he was told to do, he would get a shock with this device. It's like, is this happening, and why is nobody reporting this? And so, again, I ask, and you still think that people with disabilities are not oppressed, are not mistreated, are, you think that we are still able to get out of our bubble? You still think that we are the victims? That it's easy for us to get out of where we are, that where we find ourselves right now? And I can go on and on and on. I mean, I can talk about the Breakfast Club. I believe it was the Breakfast Club. Again, I'll leave all these links where there was a caller who happened to be blind. This was a few years ago, and she said that she was trying to get a work as a babysitter, that she had done it before, and although she was blind, that she could do it without any problem. And yes, there are people who are partially sighted or totally blind who become parents. And so what the hosts did was mock her, just like the Young Turks did at one time with protesters, just like other people have done when it comes to blind people. And it's interesting that on both occasions, with the Young Turks as well as with this other show, they said, I know that's wrong, but that's funny, or that's the truth. But you claim to be a society based on peace and love and acceptance and so forth and so on. I can't believe that when these so-called progressive, conservative, religious, atheists, a secular world, a religious world, do things such as these. It's inexcusable. This is why I'm making videos such as these. Because senior citizens go through the same thing as well. Veterans have gone through this as well. Each of the groups, and probably more that I'm not mentioning, have gone through some sort of oppression, some sort of stigma attached to whatever they're going through. And it's time for us to say, let's stop this. Let's make this a national conversation. I'm going to end with this, and I've talked about this topic before. We have had people with disabilities as presidents. You may not have seen it this way, but we have. People like John F. Kennedy, people like Franklin Delano Roosevelt, you have two. You have a governor in New York who happened to be blind. Now, regardless if they did a bad job or a good job, that's not here nor there. I'm just saying they had disabilities. Joe Biden has a disability. What I wish each of these people would do, or could have done, even Ronald Reagan. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's after his presidency. But what I wish a lot of these politicians who have a disability would do is be more upfront with them. Don't hide your disability. Talk about it. It's time for people with disabilities to be considered It's time for us to be at the table talking about policies just like you guys are, because it doesn't only affect you, it affects us. And how do you, I mean, we know about suicide rates among teens when it comes to victims of domestic violence. We know suicide when it comes to um, the LGBT community, so forth and so on. But how many statistics do we know about people with disabilities? How much do we care? See, this is where I point out the hypocrisy. And this is why politicians who have a disability, instead of denying it, instead of trying to present themselves as if they are, as if they don't have a disability, just to fit in, just to be accepted. Embrace your disability and teach people it's okay to have a disability. We may not always like it, but it's with us, and we're going to remain with it for the rest of our lives. And we can choose to be bitter about it or overcome the obstacles that these disabilities give us. Overcome the obstacles that society, that the people themselves impose on us. I remember reading in a book that FDR didn't want to be seen as weak. So therefore he didn't like being in a wheelchair. Is this for real? When did disability become weakness? When did we come to believe all of these things that are just a product of our imagination? When did we ever think that it was fun, that it was amusing to make fun of somebody with a disability? I've had people tell me things like, wouldn't it be great just to take something that's in front of Daniel to see what he would do? Yes. What people were trying to do, or what people were trying to say with that statement is, let me get my enjoyment, let me get my amusement from seeing you struggle. Let me get my enjoyment, my amusement from seeing you suffer, from seeing you in pain. Let me get my amusement, my enjoyment from you getting hurt. Let me get my amusement, my enjoyment from seeing you confused. That is the kind of society that we live in. And then we're asking ourselves, why are things such as the pandemic happening? Why is inflation? Why are all of these things happening to us? This is why. We have not learned from our mistakes. Perhaps we never will. If you have enjoyed this video and have enjoyed this content and would like to subscribe, feel free to do so. Also, don't forget to watch my other videos. Yes, they are kind of long, but I do believe that speaking about these things is something that I must do. And since I am not able to visually show you what I'm doing, I must use words. And because of my a speech disability, I have to measure what I say, take certain pauses so that not only you can understand me, but also to make sure that I am saying the things that I want to say and it doesn't come out garbled. I also want to take these pauses to so these words can touch your heart, can touch your soul. A lot of times we may hear a person speaking fast. Certainly I have done it. And unfortunately, because we're not paying attention or we're doing other things as we're watching a video or as we're hearing something, we tend to lose a lot of what has been said. You can always choose to speed up this recording and it will last half of the time. So if this video is, I don't know, 15 minutes long, by switching it, by making this, speeding up this video, it can last up to 7 minutes and you would still get the same information. I'm just being truthful with you. I'm just being honest with you. I'm trying to be as open as I can with you. So again, please consider subscribing to the channel, sharing this video or other videos with anybody, liking and making comments and suggestions. I would appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Talk to you next time.